the massive iron gates of the billionaire's mansion swing open, revealing a woman who shouldn't be there. Carson Edwards stands at his study window, watching through the security monitors as a young black woman clutches something small in her trembling hands. His voice cuts through the silence. Who is she? But what happened next shocked everyone, and it all started 12 hours earlier on the grittiest street in downtown Detroit. Simone James sprints down Corktown Avenue, her worn sneakers slapping against wet pavement as she checks her phone again. Late. Always late. The double shift at the diner barely covers her rent, and now she's racing to her second job at the grocery store, praying her manager won't dock her pay again. The October wind whips through her thin jacket as she cuts through the alley behind the upscale jewelry district, a world that might as well exist on another planet. That's when the sunlight catches it. A diamond ring sits nestled against the brick wall, its brilliance almost offensive against the urban decay. Simone stops so abruptly she nearly trips, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. The ring is massive, easily worth more than she makes in 5 years. Her heart pounds as she glances around the empty alley, then carefully picks it up. "Oh my God," she whispers, turning the ring in her palm. The inscription inside reads, "Forever yours, CE to ML." Her phone buzzes with a text from her best friend Lisa Rodriguez. "Where are you? Mrs. Patterson is looking for you at the store." 20 minutes later, Simone bursts through the employee entrance of Rodriguez Corner Market, where Lisa is restocking shelves with practiced efficiency. "Girl, you look like you've seen a ghost," Lisa says, then notices Simone's clenched fist. "What's that?" Simone opens her hand, and Lisa's jaw drops. "Holy. Simone, where did you find that?" "The alley behind Tiffany's." "Lisa, this thing could change everything. I could pay off my student loans, help Mama with her medical bills, maybe even—" "Stop right there." Lisa grabs Simone's shoulders. "You know what you have to do. You have to return it." "But what if no one claims it? What if?" "Simone Marie James, don't you dare. Someone is probably crying their eyes out right now, thinking they've lost this forever. You know what's right." The weight of the ring feels heavier now, like it's pulling Simone's entire arm down. She thinks about her empty refrigerator, the eviction notice she's been hiding from Lisa, the community center where she volunteers that's about to close because they can't make rent. Little did Simone know that this decision would change everything, not just for her, but for someone watching her every move. That evening, Simone stands in her cramped studio apartment, the ring sitting on her kitchen table like an accusation. She's Googled expensive engagement rings Detroit and found dozens of stories about wealthy couples, but nothing matches this specific ring. The local police seem overwhelmed with more serious crimes, and the jewelry stores she's called either hung up or told her to file a report that would disappear into bureaucracy. "I could just keep it," she whispers to herself, then immediately shakes her head. "No. Mama didn't raise me that way." She picks up her phone and dials information. "I need the number for the biggest mansion in Bloomfield Hills." It's a long shot, but the initials CE keep nagging at her. Carson Edwards, the billionaire who owns half of Detroit's revitalized downtown, lives somewhere in that exclusive area. The phone rings 3 times before a crisp British accent answers. "Edwards Estate." "Hi, this might sound crazy, but I found an engagement ring with the initials CE to ML, and I was wondering." The silence stretches so long Simone thinks the call dropped. "Miss," the voice finally says, cold and measured, "might I ask where you found this ring?" Simone's hands shake as she provides the details. The man on the phone, who introduces himself as Harrison, the estate manager, asks probing questions that make her feel like she's being interrogated. "Mr. Edwards will see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock, Harrison finally says. "Come to the main gate. You'll be expected." The line goes dead, and Simone stares at her phone. But the real shock was still coming. She calls Lisa immediately. "They want to see me. Tomorrow. At the mansion." "That's good, right? You return the ring, maybe get a reward, everyone's happy." "Lisa, what if this is some kind of test? What if they think I stole it? What if?" Breathe, girl. You're doing the right thing. That's all that matters. But as Simone lies awake that night, the ring safely tucked in her purse, she can't shake the feeling that tomorrow will change her life in ways she can't imagine. The community center's director had called earlier, voice heavy with defeat, to tell her they had just 2 weeks before the bank forecloses. Now she stands before those imposing iron gates, her finger hovering over the intercom button, knowing that whatever happens next will test everything she believes about herself. Standing before those towering iron gates, Simone feels her heart hammering against her ribs. The mansion looms like something from a movie, all stone columns and endless windows that seem to watch her every move. She clutches the small velvet box tighter, wondering if she's lost her mind coming here alone. Carson Edwards, she whispers to herself, the name feeling foreign on her tongue. Just 2 hours ago, she'd been scrolling through her phone during her lunch break when the news segment caught her attention. There he was on the screen, the billionaire tech mogul himself, stepping out of a black sedan in front of this very mansion. The news anchor had been discussing his latest acquisition, but all Simone could focus on was the familiar address she'd found inside the ring box. Her phone buzzes with another text from Lisa. "Girl, you sure about this? Rich people don't just lose jewelry and welcome strangers into their homes." Lisa's words echo in her mind, but Simone knows she can't keep this ring. It doesn't belong to her, and the weight of it in her pocket has been eating at her conscience all morning. She takes a deep breath and approaches the intercom system mounted beside the gate. The button feels cold under her finger. After a moment, a crisp, formal voice crackles through the speaker. "Edwards residence. State your business." Simone clears her throat, trying to sound more confident than she feels. "Hi, my name is Simone James. I found something that I believe belongs to Mr. Edwards. A piece of jewelry." There's a long pause, and she can almost feel the judgment radiating through that tiny speaker. When the voice returns, it's noticeably cooler. "What type of jewelry, miss?" "An engagement ring. A very expensive one, I think. It was in a box with this address." Another pause, longer this time. She hears muffled voices in the background before the butler speaks again. "I see. Mr. Edwards has been expecting someone like you." The cryptic response sends a chill down her spine. "Someone like her? What does that mean?" "Please wait by the gate," the voice continues. "Someone will escort you to the house." The intercom clicks off, leaving Simone alone with her racing thoughts. Someone like her? The phrase keeps bouncing around her head as she paces nervously on the sidewalk. Through the iron bars, she watches a black car emerge from behind the mansion and glide down the curved driveway. A man in his 50s steps out, dressed in an impeccable black suit that probably costs more than Simone makes in 6 months. His silver hair is perfectly styled, and his expression reveals nothing as he approaches the gate. "Miss James," he says, not really a question. "I'm Harrison, Mr. Edwards' head of staff." The gate slides open with barely a whisper, and Harrison gestures for her to follow him to the car. As they drive up the winding path, Simone stares out the window at manicured gardens that stretch as far as she can see. Marble fountains, perfectly trimmed hedges, and flowers she doesn't even recognize create a landscape that feels like another world. But that's when something changes everything. Harrison catches her eye in the rearview mirror, and his expression isn't just formal anymore. There's something calculating behind those pale blue eyes, almost like he's studying her. "Tell me, Miss James," he says as they pull up to the mansion's front entrance, "what made you decide to return this particular item? Surely someone in your circumstances might have been tempted to explore other options." The way he says circumstances makes Simone's cheeks burn. She knows exactly what he means, and the assumption stings more than she expected. "Because it's not mine," she replies firmly. "My circumstances don't change what's right and wrong." Harrison's eyebrows raise slightly, as if her response surprises him. "Interesting. Mr. Edwards will want to hear that himself." As they step out of the car, Simone tilts her head back to take in the full scope of the mansion. It's even more intimidating up close, with its Gothic architecture and windows that seem to go on forever. But something Harrison said keeps nagging at her. "What did you mean when you said he was expecting someone like me?" she asks. Harrison pauses with his hand on the massive front door, and for just a moment, his formal mask slips. "Mr. Edwards has tests, Miss James. Ways of measuring character in people. This wouldn't be the first valuable item that's found its way back to him through the kindness of strangers." A chill runs down Simone's spine. Tests? What kind of billionaire tests random people, and why? "But I have to say," Harrison continues, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "you're different from the others. There's something about you that has him quite curious." The massive door swings open, revealing a marble foyer that takes Simone's breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across walls lined with paintings that look like they belong in museums. But Harrison's words echo in her mind as they walk toward an ornate staircase. Others? How many people has Carson Edwards tested, and what happened to them? Harrison stops at the bottom of the stairs and turns to face her with that same calculating expression. "Mr. Edwards is waiting for you in his study. But before we go up..." He pauses, studying her face intently. "Are you absolutely certain you're prepared for whatever comes next?" Simone stands frozen at the imposing wrought iron gates, her fingers gripping the small velvet box containing the ring. The mansion looms before her like something from a movie, all marble columns and pristine gardens that probably cost more than her entire neighborhood makes in a year. She takes a deep breath, presses the intercom button, and waits. "State your business," comes a crisp, unfriendly voice through the speaker. "I'm here about the lost ring. I called earlier about returning it." A long pause. Then the gates begin to swing open with a soft mechanical hum. The walk up the circular driveway feels endless. Simone's sneakers seem too loud against the pristine stone, and she finds herself trying to step lighter, more carefully. When she reaches the front doors, they open before she can even knock. A tall, stern-looking man in an expensive suit stands before her. His gray hair is perfectly combed, and his eyes scan her from head to toe with obvious disapproval. "You must be Miss James." "I am Harrison, Mr. Edwards' butler." "Follow me." The interior of the mansion takes Simone's breath away. The foyer alone is larger than her entire apartment, with a crystal chandelier that catches the afternoon light and throws rainbows across marble floors so polished she can see her reflection. Oil paintings in golden frames line the walls, and fresh flowers worth more than her weekly grocery budget sit artfully arranged on antique tables. "Stay close," Harrison says curtly, his shoes clicking against the floor. Mr. Edwards doesn't appreciate visitors wandering off. They walk through hallway after hallway, past rooms that glimpse libraries with floor-to-ceiling books, a dining room with a table that could seat 20, and windows offering views of manicured gardens that stretch toward the horizon. Simone tries not to gawk, but it's impossible. This isn't just wealth, it's a different world entirely. "In here," Harrison announces, stopping at a heavy wooden door. He knocks twice, waits for a response, then opens it. "Miss James to see you, sir." The study is intimidating, dark wood paneling, leather-bound books, and behind a massive mahogany desk sits Carson Edwards himself. He's younger than Simone expected, maybe mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and serious blue eyes. When he looks up from his papers, she feels like he's seeing right through her. "Please, sit," he says, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. His voice is measured, controlled. Simone sits on the edge of the chair, the velvet box feeling heavy in her hands. "Mr. Edwards, I found your ring this morning. I wanted to make sure it got back to you safely." Carson's expression doesn't change as she places the box on his desk. He opens it slowly, stares at the ring for a long moment, then looks back at her. "Do you know what this ring is worth, Miss James?" "I figured it was expensive, but I don't really know jewelry." $50,000. More than most people make in a year. Simone's stomach drops. She'd known it was valuable, but hearing the actual number makes her feel dizzy. That's more than double what she makes at the diner, more than enough to save the community center, more than enough to change everything. And you're just returning it. No questions asked. No reward expected. It's not mine, she says simply. Carson leans back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that makes her uncomfortable. Harrison tells me you work at Morrison's Diner. Long hours, minimum wage, supporting your grandmother. Heat rises in Simone's cheeks. You investigated me? I investigate anyone who comes to my home. You'd be surprised how many people would have kept that ring, Miss James. Or demanded a reward. Or tried to negotiate. There's something in his voice, not quite sadness, but something close to it. Like he's seen too much of the world's worst and stopped expecting better. I volunteer at the Jefferson Community Center, Simone finds herself saying. We're about to lose our funding. The kids there, they need that place. It keeps them off the streets, gives them somewhere safe to go after school. She pauses, feeling foolish. I could have used the money. God knows I could have. But it wasn't mine to use. For the first time, Carson's expression shifts. Something flickers across his face, surprise, maybe, or recognition. The Jefferson Center. I know it. Good program. You know it? I make it my business to know the community. He stands, walking to the window that overlooks his sprawling grounds. Tell me, Miss James, what would you do if someone offered you the chance to save that community center? To help those children you care so much about? Simone's heart starts beating faster. There's something in his tone, something that makes her think this conversation is heading somewhere she didn't expect. I'd do whatever it takes, as long as it's legal and right. Carson turns back to her, and for the first time, he almost smiles. Almost. What happened next shocked everyone, including Simone herself. He walks back to his desk, opens a drawer, and pulls out a sealed envelope. The paper is thick, expensive, with his initials embossed in gold at the corner. Miss James, your honesty today has presented me with an interesting opportunity. One that could change both of our lives significantly. He holds out the envelope, but doesn't let go when she reaches for it. Before you open this, understand that what's inside comes with conditions. Expectations. A choice that will require you to trust someone you barely know. Simone looks at the envelope, then back at Carson's face. His blue eyes are unreadable, but there's something there, hope, maybe, or calculation. She can't tell which, and that uncertainty sends a chill down her spine. Carson smiles mysteriously as he finally releases the envelope into her hands, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. The question is, Miss James, do you trust yourself enough to make the right choice? The envelope trembles in Simone's hands as she carefully tears it open in the mansion's opulent study. Inside, she finds a pristine white check with Carson's elegant signature at the bottom, but the amount line remains completely blank. Her heart pounds as she stares at the unsigned figure, confusion washing over her face. What kind of game is this? She whispers to herself, turning the check over as if searching for hidden instructions. The grandfather clock in the corner chimes ominously as storm clouds gather outside the massive windows, casting shifting shadows across the mahogany-paneled room. Simone quickly pulls out her phone to call Lisa, her voice shaking as she explains the bizarre discovery. Girl, that's either the most generous thing I've ever heard or the most manipulative, Lisa says through the speaker, her voice crackling with concern. An unsigned check? That could be for $100 or $100,000. What does he expect you to do with that? Before Simone can respond, she hears footsteps in the hallway. A young maid with kind eyes peeks into the study, noticing Simone's distressed expression. Excuse me, miss, but are you all right? The maid asks softly, stepping closer. I'm Maria, and I couldn't help but notice you look troubled. Simone looks up, grateful for the genuine concern. I'm just trying to understand Mr. Edwards' intentions. This whole situation feels so strange. Maria glances around nervously before lowering her voice. Can I speak freely? Mr. Edwards, he's been different since his fiancée passed away 3 years ago. Sometimes he does these tests, trying to find people who remind him of her goodness. The ring you returned, It was hers. The revelation hits Simone like a physical blow. Her hands fly to her mouth as the weight of what she's discovered sinks in. Oh my God. That's why he seemed so emotional when I gave it back. But here's the thing, Maria continues, checking the doorway again. Some of us staff worry about these tests of his. He's generous, yes, but sometimes his grief makes him do things that aren't entirely fair to the people involved. Another staff member, an older gentleman in butler attire, appears in the doorway with a stern expression. Maria, Mr. Edwards doesn't appreciate gossip about his personal affairs, he says coldly, his eyes fixed on Simone with obvious suspicion. The tension in the room becomes suffocating as Simone realizes she's caught between conflicting loyalties and unclear motives. The unsigned check suddenly feels heavy in her hands, like a document that could either save her community center or trap her in something she doesn't understand. I need to think about this, Simone announces, folding the check and placing it firmly on Carson's mahogany desk. Whatever Mr. Edwards is offering, I can't accept something with such unclear terms. My grandmother always taught me that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Maria's eyes widen with what looks like respect, while the butler's expression remains unreadable. Thunder rumbles outside as the storm intensifies, matching the emotional turbulence building within the mansion's walls. As Simone walks toward the study door, her phone buzzes with a text from Lisa. The community center got their final notice. 3 days to pay or they're shutting us down permanently. The timing feels cruel, almost like the universe is testing her resolve. She stops in the doorway, looking back at the unsigned check sitting on the desk, then at Maria's hopeful face, then at the storm raging beyond the windows. I need to speak with Mr. Edwards directly, Simone declares, her voice growing stronger with each word. I need to know what he really wants from me, and I need him to be honest about his intentions. No more games, no more tests. But the biggest surprise was still coming as Simone realizes the true depth of Carson's grief and the real reason behind his mysterious behavior. With determination burning in her eyes despite her trembling hands, Simone turns and walks purposefully down the mansion's long corridor toward Carson's private office, the unsigned check clutched firmly in her grip, ready to demand answers that could change everything. Simone's knock echoes through the mahogany door of Carson's study. Her heart pounds as she clutches the unsigned check, determination replacing her earlier uncertainty. Come in, Carson's voice calls from within. She pushes open the heavy door to find Carson standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his silhouette framed against the storm clouds gathering outside. He turns slowly, and for the first time, she sees something raw and vulnerable in his eyes. I can't accept this, Simone says, holding out the check. Not without knowing what it really means. Carson's lips curve into a sad smile. Most people would have just cashed it and disappeared. He walks to his desk and picks up a small, silver-framed photograph. This ring, it belonged to someone very special. Simone steps closer, and her breath catches. The woman in the photo has kind eyes and a radiant smile, wearing the exact same ring Simone found on the street. Your fiancée. Elena, Carson whispers, his voice breaking slightly. She died in a car accident 3 years ago. The ring was knocked from her hand during the impact. He sets the photo down carefully. The paramedics found it later, but I lost it again 6 months ago. I've been carrying so much guilt, wondering if I'd ever see it again. Tears well up in Simone's eyes. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Carson looks directly at her now, and she sees the grief he's been carrying. When my staff told me a young woman had called about returning it, I had to know what kind of person you were. In my world, Simone, genuine people are rare. Everyone wants something. He pauses, studying her face. But you could have sold that ring and solved your problems. Instead, you chose to find its rightful owner. It wasn't mine to keep, Simone says simply. Elena used to say the same thing about kindness, Carson replies, his voice growing stronger. She believed it should be given freely, without expectation of reward. After she died, I became cynical. I started testing people, trying to find someone who shared her values. Simone feels the weight of understanding settle over her. The check was a test. Initially, yes. But talking to you now. Carson walks around his desk and sits on its edge, suddenly looking less like an intimidating billionaire and more like a man who's lost his way. I've been watching you, Simone. Not in a creepy way, he adds quickly, seeing her expression. But I had my people discreetly check on you after you called. I know about the community center. I know about the extra shifts you've been working, trying to raise money to keep it open. Simone's cheeks flush. That's private. It's exactly what Elena would have done, Carson says softly. She spent her life helping others, especially kids who needed safe places to go after school. He stands and walks to a bookshelf, pulling down a leather-bound album. Look. The pages are filled with photos of Elena at various community events, reading to children, serving meals at shelters, painting murals on neighborhood walls. Simone sees the same passion in Elena's face that she feels when working with the kids at the center. She would have loved what you're trying to do, Carson continues. And she would have hated that I've been sitting in this mansion, hoarding resources while places like your community center struggle. So what are you saying? Simone asks, hardly daring to hope. Carson closes the album and meets her eyes. I'm saying I want to fund your community center. Not as charity, but as a partnership. I want you to run it, expand the programs, hire more staff, maybe even open additional locations in other neighborhoods that need them. Simone's hand flies to her mouth. Are you serious? Dead serious. But I have one condition. Carson's expression grows intense again. I want to be involved. Not as the rich guy writing checks from his mansion, but as someone who shows up, who helps with the kids, who remembers what Elena taught me about giving of yourself, not just your money. The storm outside breaks, rain pattering against the windows as Simone processes everything. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me become the person Elena believed I could be, Carson says quietly. Say you'll help me honor her memory by doing something that matters. 3 months later, Simone stands in the renovated community center, watching Carson help a group of 10-year-olds with their homework. He's traded his expensive suit for jeans and a volunteer t-shirt, his face animated as he explains a math problem. The children adore him, they call him Mr. C and fight over who gets to sit next to him during story time. The center now serves over 200 kids daily, offering tutoring, art classes, sports programs, and free meals. Simone manages it all with a team of 12 full-time staff members, and they're already planning the second location across town. Miss Simone, 8-year-old Marcus runs up to her, clutching a drawing. Look what I made. The crayon artwork shows 2 stick figures standing in front of a building labeled Community Center with hearts floating above their heads. That's you and Mr. C, Marcus explains proudly. You're heroes. Simone kneels down to Marcus's level, her heart full. We're just people who care about you, sweetheart. That's what heroes really are. As the day winds down and the last child gets picked up, Carson approaches Simone with a tired but genuine smile. Elena would be proud, he says, looking around at the vibrant, busy space they've created together. She'd be proud of you, Simone corrects. You didn't just write a check and walk away. You showed up. Carson nods, pulling out his phone to show her a photo from earlier, him surrounded by laughing children, flour in his hair from the cooking class disaster. I'm thinking about Elena less as someone I lost and more as someone who taught me how to live, he admits. Thank you for reminding me of that. Simone smiles, thinking back to that rainy morning when she found a simple ring on the sidewalk. Such a small moment that changed everything, not just for her, but for Carson and hundreds of children in their community. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with the simplest acts of integrity. When we choose to do what's right, even when no one is watching, we open doors we never imagined existed. Simone's decision to return that ring didn't just reunite Carson with a precious memory, it connected 2 people who needed each other to become who they were meant to be. What would you have done with that ring? More importantly, what small act of kindness could you do today that might change someone's world? Let us know in the comments below, And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove ordinary people can create extraordinary change.